So I just had to remake a video about Chuck Norris. Hey everyone. So, I got up this morning and I found out that Chuck Norris died. And I saw it in somebody's post or something. I don't know about you, but I go to another source because people say things all the time. And I looked up to see if Chuck Norris had actually died. And, it turned out he did. I looked on CNN and some few other news sources, went to Threads, went to YouTube. Yep, he's dead. And I was like, damn, that's messed up. Because for me, and I'm realizing that in this particular instance, this is a for me thing. And I lament that when other people do it, but I just didn't know that this was a thing. But for me, it was sad that he died. I remember him fighting Bruce Lee. I remember him in Delta Force. I remember him, in Texas Ranger, Walker, Texas Ranger. I never watched it, but I remember the show. And, that's what I remember him as. He was an actor. And I remember him being a conservative. And for a while there, that was okay. Being a conservative was, just like being liberal. And, it was a kind of thing that, oh, okay, whatever, dude. And I think he was a Reagan guy. I seem to remember something about that, but I don't know. But anyway, for me, when I heard he died, it was like, oh, an actor died. He had this persona. There was this whole thing about, basically Chuck Norris could do anything. And underneath Chuck Norris' beard is another fist. And when the boogeyman goes to bed, he checks for Chuck Norris. All these kind of things and memes. And before memes, it was these desk calendars or anything of all these Chuck Norris facts about. He was basically indestructible and faster than the speed of light and all that kind of stuff. And that was the majority of my contact with him. He was an actor, and then as he got older, this thing, I don't even know where this Chuck Norris thing came up, and it became like a running joke. But my initial reaction was that I was threading through and I came across this guy on X, and he said liberals hated him, and they're glad he's dead or something to that effect. And I said, shut the F up. It was just like, why is everything political? Why does everything have to be just this thing? Like I said, at that point, it was like I hadn't really thought about it much. He was a guy, I think he was conservative, and that was the end of it. That was me. And then I go on to Threads, and there's this huge battle about Chuck Norris. And what's sad about this, what's making me respond the way I am, is that somebody asked, seemingly innocently, why do we don't like Chuck? Because these people who identify as liberal were saying things like, oh, I'm glad he's dead, rest in peace. I mean, just horrible things about the guy being dead. And people are asking like, well, why? And say, oh, he was a big Trump supporter. He was a pedophile, on and on and on and on. And people are asking questions like, why are you saying that? And the response was, oh, look, a MAGA, and why don't you just admit that you love Trump, and here's your brain on Trump and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sliding through this stuff going, yeah, why do you hate him? I don't remember him being on a campaign trail. And again, I don't remember. Maybe he did do these things. Maybe he was a horrible person. I don't know. But I don't remember that being the same way. And quite frankly, I don't remember, so much hate for Hulk Hogan when he was alive. I remember he did something at a gas station, and that got some news. And but I just remember him as this 80s icon. And this is not me saying one thing or another about Hulk Hogan in particular, death. It was just that I guess I just don't live in that world where everything is like, you have to say these things, you have to be in this place politically, or I hate you. And that's why I feel about Chuck Norris. Is like, I'm sorry he's dead. I'm sorry. Charlie Kirk was dead, and I think he was a horrible human being. But I don't see how anybody benefited from his death. It was horrible what happened to him. I wouldn't want to have a cup of coffee with him or anything. He was a jerk, but he shouldn't have died for being a jerk's not a capital crime. And I feel the same way about Chuck Norris. Okay, I knew he was a Republican. it wasn't his defining characteristic. But to say that, and because he feels that way, I hate him. I must say horrible things about him. So that means the people on the other side can say the same thing about you and people and icons that you respond to and the like. And I think that's my problem. It's like both camps or both ideas or wherever you are in your ideology or identity or whatever you think, and whoever is opposite of that, they're wrong and I'm right, and neither the two shall meet. And it's this thing of I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative, and you're evil because you don't believe the same way I do. It's not this thing of, okay, whatever, dude. You think that, go in peace, serve the Lord. It's always this, whoever's doing it, both sides are guilty of this, where it's like, somebody died, this happened. And it's just these horrible things like rest in piss. God damn, what did the guy do? He's got to rest in piss. But people feel like okay like that. But if a conservative says something about that, like, so another example, not quite as extreme, was that yesterday, someone said something about Starfleet Academy. And a person posted, Starfleet Academy sucks. That's all he said. And the response was, well, just say that you're MAGA. And I'm like, look, man, I think Starfleet Academy sucks, but I'm not a Republican. Why is that got to be the thing? Why can't I just have an opinion? Why is it that you must think these things or you're a bad person? And I think some of it is it's the internet. People come out here because before Chuck Norris died, no one was complaining about Chuck. No one thought about him. He was just an actor who retired. Guy was 86 years old or something. No, he wasn't in our our world or anything. He wasn't our enemy. But when he died, it's like we have to bring out all these things about him because he didn't think exactly the same way I did, and that saddens me. I remember a time where you said okay, and I was taught that way, and it was hard for me as a child because someone disagrees with you, and like, Dad, I'm so mad. Conrad said this, and why did he? This is the right thing, and if I would say things like, yeah, you gotta let it go. It's not that important. And I was so angry because I'm right. I know I'm right. Why doesn't he do these things? Why doesn't he think the right way? That's not true, blah, blah, blah. And, as you grow up, you gotta go, okay. Because if you don't, you'll be fighting all the time. And I think that's why people do that, because fighting all the time gets looks, gets likes, people click, people send memes. I mean, this thread went on for hundreds of entries where people are just ragging on people asking the question, why do I have to hate Chuck Norris? And, here comes the MAGA and the hats and all these memes. I mean, people wake up in the morning with these loaded guns, can't wait to just unleash these. Finally, someone says some MAGA this, and here's this meme. And that just saddens me because, we're not talking anymore. We're just ripping on each other. And it saddens me that's the way what we pass for discourse. I mean, we have this thing called social media, and the only thing it's used for, I shouldn't say that. The thing that is elevated to the top is when we just go ugly at each other. It is heartwarming, and it's really great when people say nice things. I remember one article somebody wrote, and it was about, I think it's what's it called? It's either Lucy or Linus or Lucy. The song when you think of the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, those guys. It's that song. And people were just reminiscing about it. It's like, I remember this song when I was a kid, and it was so great, and I love it. And I said, it warms my heart that people still love jazz this way, and people liked and everything. And that's great. People just having a conversation and moving on. But the moment somebody says something you don't like, it becomes this political thing. And I don't know. I feel in my heart that the majority of people don't feel that way. They slide past. And, but there are enough people who just relish that, especially for the past weeks as you've been watching my videos, there's been this thing about Star Trek Academy, and people just, this is the greatest show ever, and I love it, and I love Sam and Caleb, and oh my God, they're so beautiful and I love her hair and all that kind of stuff. And people on the other side, myself included, are responding like, so what? It's the story, the setting, everything sucks. Oh, you're a MAGA. Da, da, da. And it's like, why can't we just have a conversation about a property that we both love? So that does sadden me. And I don't know, I guess that's just the way we gotta, the world we live in, that's the way it gotta be. My original video says no one hates Chuck Norris, because in my life, I've never heard anything bad about Chuck Norris. Like I said, I heard, and I'm old enough to remember that I think he was at the White House. I don't know, but it's some connection between him and Reagan I keep making. And I vaguely remember him saying something about Trump. And now he's a MAGA and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, he was just an actor to me that made some cool action movies in my lifetime. And whoever he voted for or didn't vote for never really registered to me. But what do you guys think? How important is it to you? How unimportant is it to you? How is it that you can see the good in the man and recognize the bad? Comment below.